Yeah, sure. So it's not just iron ore. Resources in general have a very, very long time cycle on them. So what happens is it's very, very expensive and time consuming to get any mine up and running. So iron ore will trade at $21 a tonne, $25 a tonne, $28 a tonne, and it doesn't make any economic sense to put a new mine in or spend billions of dollars on a new railway line or anything. Then all of a sudden iron ore pops to $160 spot a tonne, and everything makes sense, yeah? I mean, actually getting iron ore off the moon would make sense almost at that price. So then everyone goes and builds new railway lines, does new mines, people that have existing tenements open them up, and that happens in Australia, Africa, Brazil, anywhere that's got iron ore. In fact, as I jokingly said last time, there's so much iron ore in the world you can lick it off the ground. So it's not really an iron ore exercise, it's a logistics exercise. And so what happens is you haven't got enough iron ore, that's why the iron ore price goes so high. Then you've got too much, then it goes too low. And then you get really weird things happening, like right now, where people say, okay, I've had it. Like I'm producing iron ore at $65 a tonne and I'm selling it at $59 a tonne. Atlas Iron Ore announced that in the paper this morning. So, but what choice have they got but to keep going? So they said they're going to just keep going and keep going and keep going, i.e. keep losing money. I'll just explain that in English. Keep losing money in the hope that they can lower their cost of production or that the iron ore price goes back up. And so Atlas, let's not single Atlas Iron Ore out on this. Fortescue are doing that times 10. Yeah? They're losing money on every piece of iron ore they produce, and they've got $9 billion of debt. So they're going to do it in the hope that they can lower the cost of production or that the iron ore price goes back up, not only to stay in business and keep their equity valuable, but also to pay back the $9 billion of debt that they have. So this is the nature of the beast, and because of these cycles, they tend to overshoot, and that's what's really interesting about investing in commodities. They overshoot dramatically in each direction. So you get iron ore trading on 17 times earnings in a boom, and then going bust. And then in gold, for example, in the good old days, gold stocks traded on 3 or 4 times cash flow. When Newcrest merged with Lahire, I think they were trading on 25 times cash flow. So it's all cyclical. Yeah, so just a snapshot of Rio. Last year, 75% of their earnings came from iron ore. And we've just had a talk about the predicament with iron ore. Now, Rio's in the fortunate position that their cost of production is much lower than Fortescue and Atlas, which is why they will survive. And is actually one of the reasons why they would, in some ways, be hopeful that the price goes lower, so that competitors go out of business. But all the time, their cash flow just goes down and down and down and down. And I think most analysts would say to you that iron ore was 75% of Rio's earnings last year, and that number is going to shrink dramatically. So imagine 75% of your annual wage just suddenly disappearing. You'd be living on 25% of your annual wage, and that's effectively what's happened to Rio, or will happen to Rio.
Are you indicating from that past comment that you think Fortescue is going to go out of business?
There's a high risk that Fortescue is in quite severe financial difficulty. If Fortescue had no debt, we probably wouldn't be having this discussion. They could close the mine down or just keep the business going at a marginal rate. But when you've got $9 billion of debt to repay, there comes a point when your debt holders are controlling your future, not you, and that's probably the biggest danger for Fortescue. I would say that, it's obviously very difficult to speculate on what management and the board thinks the future holds, but I would say at some stage one of the debt holders will want to get repaid, and they will exercise what they believe and actually are their contractual rights to receive that debt back, and that will put Fortescue into a very precarious position.